Herbie's joining us, as we mentioned. Awesome to get it. Like, he's literally, after after joining our show, no one's interviewing with us, joining our show, he's going to head off and jump on the Herbie Air Express and get down to Atlanta, getting ready for the national championship game. He's on the call with Chris Fowler. But I wanted to start things off. We'll do a whole preview and breakdown with him. We'll get into our game picks and kind of dissect what's going on with FanDuel, try to beat the book one more time, right? And then, but listen, at our core, at our foundation, we're NFL draft guys, right? And we like, that's our passion here. Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback. We've discussed it a lot, the potential for Quinn Ewers to grad transfer, the potential for him to declare for the NFL draft, and it's been made official now. I want to explain to everyone. So there's a January 15th date as we sit here on January 16th. That's the official day for underclassmen that they have to declare. Now, because of the college football playoff and the first year of the 12-team playoff, there's been an exception or an addendum written to that rule that players have. The game is being played. The national championship game is being played on the 20th, as we all know, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. On the 24th, for those players participating in that game, they have to make a decision by then. So there's an extension for players from Notre Dame and Ohio State. But for the rest of the country, if you're an underclassman, you have eligibility left, and you have to make a declaration whether you're leaving for the NFL or you're going to stay in college. That's to be done yesterday, January 15th, okay? Quinn Ewers, in time for that deadline, made the decision. I struggled with this one, okay? Because it's like the old school Todd McShay versus adjusting to the times and what we're seeing and the opportunities, okay? So here's where I want to kind of take this. From a business standpoint, if I'm an advisor for Quinn Ewers, I am talking to the same people that I myself have talked to, that Todd McShay has had the conversations with, and those are people in the NFL. And I told you last week, everyone I've spoken to in the NFL, everyone, solicited or unsolicited, has said Quinn Ewers needs to grad transfer. Archie Manning is the quarterback of the future. There's no question. Second, that final gun went off in the Cotton Bowl, and they lost that game. It's Arch time in Austin, Texas. We know that. But Quinn did not have the best year of his career. There's still growth that can occur for Quinn Ewers. Maybe it would take a fresh start somewhere else, a new offensive coordinator, a new head coach. Maybe it would simply just take a full year of health after the oblique injury, the ankle injury, okay? Everyone in the league told me that. Solicited and unsolicited, Quinn Ewers needs to grad transfer. And the reason why is two parts to it. First of all, despite all the games played, right? All the starts he's made, all the wars he's been through. And we've talked extensively in the show, and I will never stop talking about how critical game experience is to quarterbacks when they get in the NFL. It's not about, I got drafted third overall, so I got $33 million guaranteed in a 5-year contract. Or I got drafted 20 overall, so I've got like 18 million guaranteed. It's not about that. It's about the career. It's about the second contract, but it's about, if I'm going to be a first round pick, I'm probably going to have to play. And am I ready to play? And even as a second round draft pick, like, didn't take long for Will Levis to get on the field. Okay. Quinn Ewers is not the draft pick that he wants to be. Probably a third or fourth round draft pick. Okay. I've talked to some people who think second round. I've talked to some people in the league who have him fifth round. Okay. That's a wide range, and it's not a range you want. I'd be curious to find out, because we've talked about this too. The committee, the underclassmen committee that you can put in your, put in a claim to, or, you can question the committee on where you're going to get drafted. Right.
Right.
And we've talked about this, that you get one of three answers from that committee. The underclassmen advisory committee is the name. First round, second round, go back to school. Okay. And they're not always right. Like, as we get closer to draft, I'll get into, there were like 7 guys last year that were told go back to school. It wound up being second round picks. And there's all sorts of numbers, but for the most part, they're in the general area. Okay. I'm guessing he got to go back to school. Maybe at best he got a second round. Okay. So with that as the backdrop, that's not the answer you want. So that right there kind of tells you maybe I should go back to school for another year. The second part of this, and this is the new age, right, is that we've got these NIL deals. Carson Beck, the initial report was $3 million that Carson Beck got from Miami to go. And then there were some reports of 4 million. And now I'm reading too that potentially like there could be more, and it could be closer to like 8, 10 million, like, and I don't know
Come
what's
on.
true. All I know is the initial is somewhere in that $3 to $4 million range. And what I can do is compare that to what a second or third round draft pick would have been in terms of his money for his rookie year. I was told Will Levis made, $995,000 his rookie year. So let's call it $1 million. And let's say Carson Beck is making $4 million at Miami. It's
I'm not good at math, but
$3 million pay cut. Or let's say he's making $3 million. It's still $2 million more to stay in college for another year. Okay. And so for Quinn Ewers, I'm not saying it would have been the same money, but I got to guess. And I have read substantiated reports. There were offers to go other places for sizable quarterback money in this NIL market. So let's just even call it $2 million. And that now is maybe a third or fourth round pick. You're talking, over $1 million pay cut that he's going to take to be a rookie in the NFL. Business wise, not a great decision, in my opinion. Okay. Not even in my opinion. That's the fact of it. The second part is, I think he could have benefited from another year, maybe a different system, maybe just a healthy year, more game experience. We've talked about Jaden Daniels, the transfer. We've talked about, Caleb Williams being a transfer. We've talked about, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, getting a second opportunity at a different place, fresh set of eyes on you and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. I think he could have benefited, right? But then there's this. And only in the last 24 hours did I start thinking about this. There's something special about college football and the dreams you have as a young man growing up and being a Texas guy and always your entire life wanting to play for Texas and be the starting quarterback at Texas. And you accomplish that dream as a child. And you do it at a damn high level. College football semifinals 2 years in a row, win a lot of games, kind of, I don't want to say turned around, but really helped elevate a Texas program that had been sputtering for a long time, since the Vince Young days. Got this thing turned around. Sark obviously comes in, huge part of that, but Quinn will always be remembered as the quarterback that kind of jolted the Texas program. And there's something too, do I just want to be another one of these NIL veterans bouncing around from school to school? I want to be remembered as the Texas quarterback. And so that part of it, I understand and appreciate, to be quite honest. That's where I am on it. Go ahead.
I'm going to give you a subtle pushback, and then I'm going to agree with you. And my slight pushback is this. There is no way. My instinct tells me that there's no way he gets out of the second round. And I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying about the tape. I know what you're saying about the year. I know what you're saying about conversations you've had with scouts. All of that adds up to me, by the way. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. But this happens all the time where we talk in January and then we get into the pre-draft process and all of a sudden you hear Quinn Ewers had some of the most remarkable interviews I've ever heard. This guy's so sharp. You get him on the board. He knows this. He's so charismatic when you get him in the room. And I think he has a chance to have that kind of a pre-draft process with his interviews. I think he's going to throw the ball. You're going to go to the pro day and you'll be like, oh, look at him throwing the ball. It's like David Pollack talked about in our first episode of this show, man.
Yep.
He's a guy you see on the driving range and he's just striping it. He's going to, I think, kill the pre-draft process. I think this is a weak class. I think they benefit from that. And that's why I think
that's a big part of it too.
Right. So they benefit from that in terms of where he's going to go. Here's where I'll agree with you. Is it about where you're going to get drafted, or is it about your long-term success and how much success you have over the course of your career? And to me, that's what it should be about. It should be about that. It should be about how well you're going to play over the course of your career. And he puts himself in the best position by going back for another year of school, playing some more football, again, ideally staying healthy and showing, this kid's a talented kid. If he goes back and has a great year, you potentially go from an early second round pick, maybe even a late first, to a guy who's going to go much earlier, who's going to be in a much better position to succeed. So to me, ultimately at the end, I agree with you. I think he should have gone back.
You mentioned it, and it's the one part I failed to mention. I'm glad you brought it up. There are agents involved, and those agents are looking at NIL deals and also comparing this year's quarterback class to what potentially could be next year's quarterback class. I think that played into Jalen Milroe's decision to leave for the draft, right? But you've got Carson Beck going back to school. You've got Garrett Nussmeier, who could be the first quarterback taken next year, going back to school. You've got some younger quarterbacks elevating. Yeah, I think it absolutely. I mean, this is kind of widely known as a weak quarterback class after 2 years of much better quarterback talent coming out in the draft. So I do think that factored in. And I wish the dude the best, man. Like,
of course.
I mean, all of them, all of these guys, and I've said that before, you want the best for them. And he certainly is prepared from a coaching experience. Like the coaching that he's gotten from Sark is well documented, and his experience in the NFL and Sark's experience at Alabama and his experience developing quarterbacks for decades now in college football. Like you're well prepared in that department. There's no question about it. He's got a lot of games under his belt. But it is what it is now. And so it's time to just turn the page. And so now we move forward and we kind of stack it in this year's quarterback class. And it's going to be interesting. This year's class is interesting, and I don't want to do a whole lot of time, but I'll throw it out there. Like you've got a lot of people are on the Cam Ward bus, and a lot of people are on the Shedeur Sanders bus, and not all those people are want to take a ride on both buses. They're like some people are, you know what I mean? Like planting I'm a Cam guy, right?
Well, they're very different players, right? That makes sense. That adds up. It's stacked.
Right?
It stacks up. Yeah,
totally. And so it's either I'm a Cam guy or Shedeur guy, but then after that. Where does Quinn factor into this? I keep hearing a lot of love for Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. He's going to have a great process like you were talking about.
Right.
Smart guy, a lot of wars, tough, has the arm. Get him in an NFL system. I can't wait to watch him at the Senior Bowl and kind of see him NFL system. How does he respond that week? And I think Quinn Ewers in that discussion, Jalen Milroe at the Senior Bowl as well. Like, that's going to be an awesome week. And that's not even the strength of this year's Senior Bowl class of quarterbacks, but it's pretty intriguing. And the defensive line group and all of that. But another decision that was made, which I totally understood, was Matthew Golden, wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's a guy I've fallen in love with. I mean,
made some money, huh?
We haven't done that's my guy in a little while. But he would be next. I've absolutely fallen in love with him in a wide receiver class and I'm interested. I think he's fast. I mean, I see it on tape. I'm interested to see. I mean, he's not going to set the record, break the record that Xavier Worthy broke last year with a 4.21, with his 40-yard dash. But I think he's going to be in like that high 4.3, worst case, like low 4.4 range. I see the speed. Isaiah Bond, his teammate, is people think that he's going to run the fastest 40-yard dash of anyone. One. Very interesting one. I think there's some fool's gold there, and not a play on words, but Matthew Golden to me is a better prospect. What he's shown, and I'm interested in your take, like Matthew Golden, and I've got more tape to do and got to go down and break down the whole season and all of that. But when I start to look at this wide receiver class, like. Is Travis Hunter a receiver or cornerback? Let's just remove him because he's a kind of a unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like we got Teteroa McMillan. We've got
Luther Burden.
Yeah, I was going to say Luther Burden.
Trey
Those
Harris.
are two guys that everyone has. Like I don't know. I'll be interested to see when I'm done actually doing the tape. Stacking them one tape after the other. And I've done a lot on McMillan. I've done a lot on Burden. I know who those guys are, but for me, and I know you're the same because we do the process together every year. The exercise of watching one player's tape at the same position, then the next player's tape, and then like putting Golden's tape and stack that up mentally.
Right.
I won't. I'll be surprised if he's not in my top 5. I think there could be an argument that he's kind of up there, and I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Yeah, in terms of like the top 3, 4 receivers in this class.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the thing with Bond that's interesting to me is he didn't put up big numbers at Alabama necessarily, but I loved his 2023 tape so much better. So it'll be interesting to see how banged up he was this year and how much of that played a role. And all that, that's all part of the process. A lot of that stuff will start to come out over the next few months.
What's going on at Penn State, man? Like these underclassmen declarations on January 15th are always fascinating to me because there's two aspects of it. All right, how is this elevating this year's class, the 2025 NFL draft class, right? But also, how's it affecting the 2025 college football season? Right? Like Drew Aller's going back to school, and I think that got cemented by the fact that he didn't play his best in the final game played. Okay. Penn State, I'm getting the sense, I said it in the open, it's like James Franklin saying, hey, you see what happened in Columbus last year? And I'm sure Herbie will get to this, but you see like 3rd, 4th, 5th year guys who could have gone to the NFL are coming back and playing. We'll get you some NIL money. We'll make it worthwhile. You're not going to take a pay cut, but let's make a real run at this next year. Now we got our quarterback back. What else is coming back to Penn State?
They got both of their talented running backs, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, who I think was a day 2 guy.
Singleton surprised me.
I mean, that's a big one. Everyone talks about Abdul Carter coming off the edge there, but the other guy, denied Dennis Sutton, the other edge, is a talented guy that I think probably could have been a day 2 guy. He's going back. Zane Durant, a defensive tackle, I think was going to be drafted. All of them are going back. I mean, these are all names. When you add Aller, those are 5 guys that I think had a chance to be drafted. Some of them day 2, and all the reports are they're all headed back. I mean, that puts them in a great position to build off of going into next year.
A great position. I mean, if I'm Penn State, you get all those players back. Now we got to get some weapons on the outside, and we can legitimately be the class of the Big Ten next year. Legitimately,
they're going to have to rebuild the receiver room. I think Amari Evans is leaving. Other receivers are leaving. So
anyone can leave this, and I mean no disrespect. I really don't. Like good players stepped up when they had to. They need to bring in a dude or 2.
Right. They got to figure that out still.
All chips are in. Penn State's got to bring in a dude or 2 at wide receiver. And it's not a hard recruiting pitch, man. We're the elite. We're up with the elite in the Big Ten. We've got a quarterback that can get you the ball. We want to open things up. We're creative offensively. We just don't have – you're the missing piece.
Yeah. Think about –
I don't know.
These Penn State fans, maybe they can back away from the ledge a little bit. After last week, that brutal loss, maybe they get this news and it takes a little bit of the sting away, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got the national championship game coming up. After the national championship game, like we hit the ground running. This is when the show is going to, I'm fired up. At that point, we'll have all the underclassmen with Ohio State and Notre Dame, all those players declaring. We can kind of do an analysis of all the players that are in, take an early look at the draft board by positions and just kind of see what we're looking at in terms of the talent there. And then, and like right away, we get Jim Nagy coming on, on the Wednesday or Thursday following the national championship game, which is next week. So it's national championship reaction show on Monday night. Okay. And then please join us on YouTube. I always call it our community, whatever we're going to call it. So national championship game reaction show right after, actually not right after. I almost forgot.
That's right.
5-minute mark. 5-minute mark. Sorry, Herbie. We're about to bring Kirk on. We're going to cut into your broadcast. We're going to steal millions from the viewership of the broadcast because they're going to be right here on YouTube with us. So that's Monday night. Then we're back a couple days later on Thursday. I think it's going to drop Thursday morning. We'll have Jim Nagy previewing the Senior Bowl, and we'll get into all this other drafts discussion. But how lucky are we, man? Like the old Harbaugh routine of who's got it better than us. Leading up to the national championship game, what voice do you want to hear from? It's the guy calling the game.
Better.
It's the face and voice of college football. Kirk Herbstreit, a really good friend of mine and a friend of this show, is going to join us in just a minute here, and I'm sure it's going to be a great conversation. Looking forward to that.